Welcome everybody to Beat the Shift Baseball. This is episode 128 for Monday, April 25th. I'm Alex Zui. I'm here today with Farbod Markazi and Ray Estrada. What's up, guys? How are we doing?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
is Ray filling in the Rudy role?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys were ultra efficient by answering at the exact same time. Love to see it.
And one-worded.
Yep, all the criteria have been met. We got a good one today. It's been a couple weeks of baseball that we've missed, but a lot of very fresh news to catch up on, including everybody's favorite umpire, Angel Hernandez, who we'll get to in a minute. Some milestones, namely Miguel Carrera, 3,000 hits, and we'll backtrack it a little more too and talk perfect game bids and some controversy surrounding those things as well, because we haven't talked about it yet. We're late to the party, but all that ahead. And before we do that, go ahead and follow us at Beat the Shift BP to see what we're saying about all these baseball things as they happen, and let us know what you think as well. All right, that's it. That's the intro. Intro done. Time for baseball. I already mentioned this. We're gonna start with Angel Hernandez, who had a legendary, and I mean legendary, performance as the home plate umpire. Not only the worst game score of this year behind the plate, with I believe it was an 85% accuracy on strike calls, but
Correct.
Icing on the cake with Kyle Schwarber giving one of the most emphatic displays of where he was making all the incorrect calls. It was something. If you haven't seen the video, you absolutely have to see it, because that one will go and be on highlight reels for a while. Kyle Schwarber putting in a good bid there for I don't even know, like that was genuine anger. Sometimes it's like they're a little bit chapped, but he had an entire team full of anger that he was carrying out. So props.
I think he had two teams full of anger that he was carrying out.
Probably. It was pretty fair. It was pretty fair incompetence, at least, on Angel's part.
It's one of those things where you, as a baseball fan, you kind of, I think it'd be kind of dead space and kind of not worth our time to just be talking about how bad Angel Hernandez is, just because that's just every year this happens. Every year we expect Angel Hernandez to blow at least several games and have something like this happening. I don't know if there's like a incentive of players he's thrown out or balls and strikes he's missed in his contract or whatever, but I don't know. This is just, at this point, this is a sign baseball's back. This is normal, and it's kind of sad, but it's kind of fun to watch too. I don't know.
Yeah, Ray, how is he still here? Like, what are we missing something? Because everybody else sees the same thing, but Major League Baseball is they love their guy. He sued them, but they still love him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we're not missing anything. He's a bad umpire, at least balls and strikes wise. And I mean, I don't know the dynamics or the contract with the umpires union, and as somebody who is pro union in general and vehemently supported the players during lockout, I don't want to say like fire the guy, but like, I mean, there's got to be some way, like there has to be fundamental changes to umpiring just to make it better. Whether it's like specific home plate umpires or just better umpires, which I think we're getting. A lot of the younger umpires are coming up with like constant feedback from like how good their balls and strikes calls are. But either way, something needs to change where Angel Hernandez can't, be the biggest storyline of a Sunday night baseball game.
That's one of the things. Why is he umpiring Sunday night baseball games? Like, why is he? I can't imagine Major League Baseball, the people who create these schedules, are dumb enough to know that putting him on on one of baseball's primetime nights is probably not the best idea. Why is he even there?
Yeah,
I have no clue. I don't know how far ahead they schedule umpiring crews at least.
And
'Cause
I
they've known about this Sunday night game for a while, but yeah, it's not
it's
great.
I remember watching a podcast or listening to a podcast on Chris Rose rotation, shout out, with an umpire. I think it was Jim Wolf. He laid it out. Being an umpire is a tough gig. You're not with your family. You're constantly traveling, and all like the best day for you is if no one's talking about you. But at the same time, I saw a tweet this morning. Angel Hernandez has missed over 2,600 balls and strikes in the last 7 years from codified baseball, and I I mean, I don't. I have to see comparisons to see like the next closest, but I can't imagine the next closest is even in the 2000s. Pretty absurd.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Jim Wolf. Well, Jim Wolf was it was Jim Joyce, who blew on just Colorado perfect game. But
Yeah,
it's not an easy gig, even if you're not traveling everywhere and doing stuff like that. And it's also hard to call, 95-mile-an-hour fastballs and 90-mile-an-hour sliders, balls and strikes. But a lot of guys do it pretty damn well. But yeah, Angel Hernandez is just so horrifically bad. Like you said, I mean, I don't think they're doing it on purpose because nobody mentions their name when they're good. Because I think at least in the industry, the guys who are good get recognized. But I mean, no other sport has a singular official who is this notoriously just like you're gonna get
Scott
horrible calls
Foster.
from him
isn't
all
there?
day.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there.
Scott Foster of the
I'm pretty sure there
NBA.
are.
There's some things to look into with him and his Chris Paul's record with him in playoff games. But sorry, not to cut you off.
No, yeah, there's absolutely horrendous officiating in other sports as well. This is not like baseball's thing, but
No, I'm not saying it's baseball
yeah,
things, but I think that's how bad Angel Hernandez is. I think there's bad stuff everywhere. There's guys with reputations in every sport, but I don't think like has anybody like Schwarber. Obviously, he didn't go super overboard with anything, but nobody's defending Angel Hernandez. I don't think I've ever seen that happen where somebody was like everybody agrees with the guy flipping out on an official.
yeah. I don't know because even by um, outrageous ejection worthy displeasure with the umpire, right? Like it's not even Schwarber's was not even that like bad in how it's directed towards the umpire. Like when you think about managers that get like right up in the umpire's face and are spitting at him and like shouting at him and cussing at him, like Schwarber's just out there. It's more like his was more like performance acting. Like he's out there showing it's like you're calling pitches out here over like you can see with his body language everything that he's saying, and that's what made it so awesome. But yeah, like umpires take way worse crap. Way more verbal abuse and all kinds of stuff too.
Oh yeah, obviously, but
I think people can definitely stand to chill out a little bit, but this is where it matters most. People are going to be upset. Which to that point too, like it's one thing. Okay, the umpires union, they got his back. You can't fire him. All right, do what you got to do, but why stick him in the biggest games? Like you got a guy that sucks that you can't ditch. Like throw him in your lowest leverage situations. Like don't throw him out there in Sunday Night Baseball where everybody can see him in the biggest moments, so to speak. I mean, just you can look at Russell Westbrook with the Lakers, right? They can't get rid of him, but they're gonna stop putting him in when it matters most. Kind of the
It's an
same deal.
interesting analogy.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't expecting it to go that way, huh?
We've got two NBA analogies in this first topic.
We like basketball's fun. Basketball is good.
Now let's talk about Ben Simmons.
Oh God, who is the? No, there's no comparison. I can't think of any comparison in any other sport to what that is. But yeah, I think that's enough. We've said a lot to get the same point across, and that's just, oh, Angel. Okay, so let's touch on this too. I don't know if there's too much to say other than congrats to Miguel Carrera on 3,000 hits. That is, I feel like maybe it's been a bigger milestone even for some other players in the past, but I don't know. Like Miguel Cabrera's 3,000, like it was cool, but maybe it's just because we knew it
There
was gonna
wasn't a lot
happen
of
for so
fanfare
long.
behind it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just because he's so good and it was
he
gonna
was
happen.
he was good. It happened against the Rockies on like middle of the day because the game from the night before had gotten postponed. And I'm sorry for my dog barking in the background, but
You're good.
it was like everybody. Well, we had the whole Aaron Boone walking him and have it not really working. On the day before, I guess the game before he got his 3,000th hit, and so that was the whole storyline. And then the game the next day got postponed, and then that game got played on like early, like what was that, Thursday or Friday or like Wednesday, something like that. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Miggy has 3,000, and it was anticlimactic in a way, and also like you said, people just didn't have that much traction going into the years. Like Miguel Cabrera is going to get to 3,000 hits pretty early in the season.
I think people are starting to. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but it's definitely not looked at the same way for whatever reason of how big of a milestone is. Maybe just saying the word 3,000, like because he was already there, doesn't seem like a lot. But this is always a momentous milestone in any baseball player's life, and like throughout MLB history. And mind you, I don't know if we're gonna get another 3,000 hit guy for at least 5-10 years.
Oh,
The
long time.
It's good.
Yeah,
We're
the
a ways
closest
away.
one is Robinson Cano at 2,600, and he's 39. Then is Yachty at
He'll
2,100.
get suspended again. So
And Joey Votto's just above 2,000. He's 38 years old. Nelson Cruz hasn't hit 2,000 yet. He's 41. Then Andrews and McCutcheon are the next two.
They're
So
you have guys
realistically
like
probably,
Altuve, Machado on decent paces, but they
yeah.
still need to play a long time. And
I'm not
especially
saying
given Altuve's injury history.
exactly. I'm not saying any one of the guys I mentioned like have like what I'm saying is the guys I mentioned have no chance, and they're the closest to it. The fact is that this is such a this milestone is always such an example of consistency, like excellence, like availability too. I know Miggy's been hurt from time to time as he's gotten older, but look at my favorite guy, Mike Trout. He's in his early 30s, and he's widely considered as, like, if he stays healthy, he's best player of all time. He's only at 1,400 hits. We don't know if he's even going to get to 3,000. Like, there's 3,000 is such a big deal that there has to be more fanfare around it. And Miggy's never done wrong by the game. So he's always been a fun-loving guy that everyone should want to follow and like emulate.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one of the best to ever do it, and maybe part of it is too that, like, the players that are reaching their 3,000 mark are probably not going to be anywhere near the prime of their career. Like Miguel Cabrera is not a super relevant baseball player outside of him approaching this milestone. And same deal with Pujols when he got it. I guess Beltre was still legitimately really good when he got his career trajectory is just kind of different like that. But it's the case for all these guys. Maybe that's kind of part of the reason why.
I mean, I was going to bring up that point too. Of like Cabrera and Pujols kind of did it
like we don't talk about these guys
at the end of
really.
the career when their teams weren't very good and they were just
Yeah.
kind of plodding along and catching up to these milestones. And I mean, I guess Ichiro did that kind of, but also he had so many hits in Japan and MLB. It was just like, can he get to 3,000 in just MLB? And he did. So I think that was the hype behind that. And yeah, like thinking to like ones that I remember, like A-Rod and Jeter were still, really good, serviceable players when they got their 3,000s. Like Biggio was too, I think I remember. But like, yeah, Cabrera and Pujols is like, oh yeah, they were just they had really good early success and a lot of early success for a long time, and then yeah, they played long enough to get to 3,000 hits.
Yeah,
So I
but
feel like Mickey getting to 500 home runs last year was also, I mean, it was a bigger deal, I think, but it was like, this is like one of the greatest careers of all time in terms of counting numbers like that.
that those two combined, right? 3,000 hits requires a 15-year long average of 200 hit seasons. That's crazy. Nobody gets 200
Yeah.
hits in seasons today at all. And then you look at, 500 homers too. Similarly, like even if you're talking like 25 homer seasons, right? Like
Yeah.
just
He's averaging 31 homers a year for his career and 187 hits. That's consistency.
And that's with his recent, like those 3 or 4 years where he really wasn't playing well or hitting for much power when he was in there. He's actually had kind of a resurgence, but
after 2016, the most home runs he's hit has been 16.
Man.
So
and he's averaging 31 on the career.
He's really limping to all these milestones, but he was seriously on a different level in his prime.
I think I just remember growing up watching Sunday Night Baseball or like these nationally broadcasted games, and they would show Miggy's like BP, and they would always say like, if you ever want to teach your kid how to play baseball, or like if you want someone to emulate, like if you want someone for your kid to emulate, it's him. He's just always looking to like just get the bat on the ball, hit it, drive it the other way, or hit line drives, and he's like I said, he's a model of consistency and excellence.
I don't know. I want my kids to go out there and swing the bat like Ichiro did. Just leaning out of the box, slapping the ball.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe
you're
Hunter
right.
Pence too. Hunter Pence would also be a good model. Yeah. There's some good ones out there. Yeah.
Kevin Youkilis. I'm only teaching the Kevin Youkilis stance to my kids.
A-Rod, if you want your kid to learn how to bunt, A-Rod is the biggest proponent of bunting and small ball.
A-Rod definitely knows how to bunt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's his game.
Wait, you mean the NBA
A-Rod
owner?
totally swings down on the ball.
What does A-Rod have to do with baseball? He's an NBA owner.
That's 3 on the basketball references.
Is this War and Peace basketball? What's happening?
Yeah.
Blast from the past.
That's a deep cut that nobody listening will get.
Indeed. All right, let's move on here.
To this, but he won't.
We're gonna backtrack here a little bit, at least in the timeline here, just because we haven't been on in a while, but we'll start with Ohtani's, who had one of the most impressive single game performances that I can think of in recent history, even though it didn't, like the final line didn't quite get there. He had a start where he carried a perfect game through 5 innings against the Houston Astros, of all teams, one of the best offensive teams in baseball, just completely dominating on the mound with 11 strikeouts as well. And goes up there, he had a 2-run double early in the game, I think another hit, a walk, like just adding. It was a bunt hit as well, showing off the wheels. So he's really just showing off at this point.
I think his manager Joe Madden said it best. He was possessed tonight. That was a virtuoso performance from the beginning. He had a different look about him. The stuff equaled the look. Virtuoso.
That's a good quote.
He was disgusting. It was fun to watch.
So
very Joe Madden quote.
So yeah, if we use that to kind of play into the other perfect game.
I have another Joe Madden quote that will go into this, so continue.
Okay. Well, let me bring up the other perfect game bid of note here, coming from another legend who's been around a little bit longer, in Clayton Kershaw, who in his first start of the year, we're going back a little ways now, took a perfect game through 7 innings and only 80 pitches. And similarly, what was the strikeout total at that point? Was it also 11 or was it more at that point?
I might have been 12, I think.
11 or
It was double
12
digits.
strikeouts. Yes. Similarly dominant performance, super efficient. And he was taken out of the game. And the Dodgers left it to the bullpen to try to finish out a perfect game, which you just don't see. I don't think that's ever happened in Major League
It was
history.
13 strikeouts.
Kershaw was
13.
at 13 through 7.
Yeah, a combined perfect game has never happened. There's been plenty of combined
Combined
games, but a
no-nos.
combined perfect game has not happened.
Right. But there is context there too with Kershaw's, build-up, really. His first start of the season in a shortened spring training hadn't thrown more than like 5 innings.
75 pitches.
Yeah, 75 pitches. So he didn't want to push it himself. Dave Roberts certainly didn't want to push it either.
He kind of had to convince Dave Roberts to go out for the 7th.
Right.
He was at 69 pitches through 6, and he wanted the 7th, and Dave Roberts was like, okay, let him do it. And then Kershaw was like, yeah, I understand that. I probably shouldn't have gone past that.
So, there's a lot of controversy here because everybody watching wants to see the perfect game. And there's a little bit of contrast just between these two perfect game bids. Very different context between the two of them. But on one side, you have Dave Roberts and Clayton Kershaw talking about how, his health is more important than the team's success in the long run, and that those being selfish goals, versus on the Joe Madden side of thing with the Angels, when he was asked about it, he said there's no way I'm pulling him out if he's throwing a perfect game. Like I don't. You probably have a different quote than this
No,
one. I
Joe
don't know if
Madden,
this is the quote that you were referring
he
to.
said when he was asked, basically Madden said before the game that Ohtani would have an 85 pitch limit, and he had 81 at that point when he was done. But that was when the perfect game was over. Madden said there's no number. He was going to pitch a perfect game. I'm not going to get in the way of a player's greatness ever.
Yeah, that's the quote that I thought you had teed up. So I'm glad you got that one in there. So two very differing philosophies
both sides
there.
is fair sentiments because Ohtani is younger and
100%.
I think just more durable throughout the game. I think there's a fair argument that Kershaw probably wasn't going to complete that perfect game. Like he was sharp, but he was getting tired because he just wasn't built up. So risk injury for him to lose it with 1 or 2 outs in the 9th, and now he threw 20 pitches over. And he has continued arm issues throughout the year.
Sometimes when, as baseball fans, we all complain about why the national TV sports shows don't talk baseball. But then whenever they talk baseball, I am reminded that I normally don't want them to talk baseball because most of the time, a lot of them are pretty poorly informed and just have some horrendous or ridiculous
Or willfully ignorant.
I think this is for the Kershaw side. This was completely blown out of the water. This isn't a guy that's 26, not coming off of repeated annual back injuries, shoulder stuff like that.
He hurt his UCL last year.
Yeah, the mileage he has on his arm. He's he's 33, 34. He's
34.
He's an old 34. The mileage he has on that arm, and if the Dodgers were expecting to, if 75, 80 wins was a win for them this year, I'm sure they would have sent him out there. But if the Dodgers want to make sure that he is rearing up and ready to go for the long haul, that was the right decision, one. And number two, I think one of the other reasons this was blown out of the water is people are forgetting spring training started 2 or 3 weeks late, or a month late. These guys are still building up. We mentioned this last.
And they had one less week of spring training, so it wasn't
exactly
just everything else. It was they were short. I mean, the the Padres had back-to-back nights of their guys throwing no-hitters, and they got pulled after 6 or 7. I believe it was Mania and Darvish.
Yep.
And then the same guy, Tim Hill, blew it both nights. And then there was not this national media outrage of like, oh, you can't pull, like they're throwing no-hitters. Like the idea of a combined perfect game was so much more egregious than a combined no-hitter. And I don't necessarily, I think I know why, but I don't get why it was such a big thing. And people were drawing comparisons to Koufax and completely missing the point that Koufax was retired by the time he reached Kershaw's age because he got overworked with his arm and stuff like that. So,
I mean,
it was, yeah. And the Dodgers last year lost in the playoffs because Kershaw got hurt. Max Scherzer had a dead arm from apparently not being pitched enough, according to him. But that was weird. But the Dodgers had all their pitching got tired at the end of the year / hurt, and that's why they lost in the playoffs. And it was, and yeah. So you look at all the context around the decision to pull Kershaw, and unless you ignore basically everything about that decision, yeah, sure, analytics are ruining baseball, and you ruined his opportunity to have his perfect game. When in fact, Hanley Ramirez ruined Kershaw's perfect game back in 2014.
Hanley Ramirez,
Yeah.
we have not forgotten. Same with you, Tim Hill. You're not safe anywhere, not even here.
I had a conversation with one of the people I worked with, and I basically said, like, I guarantee you, if this was in July or August, he would have been given a shot.
Absolutely.
A lot of this is because, like I said,
It was also
earlier,
38 degrees in Minnesota that day.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's one of the reasons, but a lot of this is because these guys aren't built up yet. These guys are. Today's April 25th as we're recording, and some of these guys are just starting to get to that 100 pitch. And maybe some guys got it their first start, but some of these guys are still building up their stamina and their longevity throughout the game. And I mean, I would have loved to see Ohtani go through longer and have the perfect game last longer. But I was fine with with the perfect game ending too, and having him continue to build up, and hopefully he'll have a better shot at that, and as more built up down the road this season, maybe in the future. The national outrage over this was, some people made good points, and overall, it was completely blown out of the water.
Well, can I talk about this from the other side of it? Because as sound as the reasoning is coming from Dave Robertson, look, at the end of the day, if Kershaw agrees that he didn't think he could have made it, then like you're definitely not going to make it if you don't have the mentality of, like, I'm finishing this game. I got this in the bag. I think that's pretty straightforward. At the same time, how many times throughout his career do you think Kershaw's just, walked out in the field? He could have rolled out of bed and picked up 6 outs. Like that's how good of a pitcher he is.
Yeah,
right.
So,
I think it wasn't an easy decision from Kershaw. I think it absolutely killed him, the fact that he had to rationalize, like, it's probably not great. He could probably sense himself getting tired. Is like 6 outs is, they said he could roll over and get 6 outs in his sleep, but it's also a lot of outs to get in a row by any measure. Let alone
there's two. Sorry, Ray.
Let alone pushing past current limits. No, go ahead. I was finishing.
There's two things I want to point out when you say that. I think Dave Roberts also got a bad rap about that. Maybe it was Dave Roberts saying that, making that final decision, but there's a very good chance this came from the Dodgers front office, and Roberts had no choice.
No. I'm just gonna say right now, there's no chance that managers are getting decisions handed down to them in real time.
I disagree.
Maybe beforehand. They had agreements.
I think beforehand it happens, and I don't know. I think there's a good chance that this decision was made.
See, I think I'll defend Dave Roberts. I think he gets too much of a bad rap of, like, oh, all he does is just listen to the Dodgers front office. There's no way this directive came down from the Dodgers front office of, under no circumstances is Kershaw going to throw more than 80, 85 pitches. There's no way Dave Roberts, he, as a fiery competitor as he is going to be like, okay, I agree to that when he has a perfect game through 7.
Yeah,
I mean,
and at the same time,
yeah,
I am not so sure that if Dave Roberts went out there or talked to Kershaw between innings, and Kershaw said, there's no way you're taking me out of this game. Like, this is mine. This is my moment. Like, I got this. There's nobody he would trust more than Kershaw at that point.
Oh, 100%.
So,
The
it's just one of those things. I think maybe that's what a lot of people are upset about, is not so much the, like, I guess that's just a default statement now, is just analytics are ruining baseball. Like, what does analytics have to do with it? It's just like like reasoning. Like,
it's common sense. It's
rationality
not
is ruining
analytics.
baseball. But it's maybe
the
the lack
other
of fire. It's the lack of competitiveness. It is an early, basically spring training start for him in
exactly.
sub 40-degree weather. But definitely used to be where every start out there was that different kind of competitive fire where a starter takes the mound and this is my game, and you're gonna have to, like, you know I'm gonna have to really get knocked out if I'm coming out of this game, because I'm not going down without a fight.
I
And
think
it's
I think
a
there's still
very
that.
different mentality
Yeah,
than before.
I I mean, I would counter that mentality is still there, but I think the players have more information on their side
No, it's
to win it.
different. It's different. It's more about executing while you're out there, but it's definitely not the mentality of, like, this is my game, and, like, I'm gonna finish what I started. Like,
Oh yeah, but I
I'm
mean,
taking this team, like, this opposing team down, and I'm the best guy for it. Like, that kind of competitive fire. Now it's more like, obviously you
yeah,
have to have that kind of edge where any batter that comes up there is like, I'm better than you. I'm going to strike you out. Whatever. Like, that still exists. I'm not saying players today are not competitive. They are,
I think I
but
think
they brought up
the
with that
job.
understanding that, like, you need to perform when you're needed, but this is a team effort, and as
Yeah,
long as you perform when you are called upon, we will be successful. And I mean, there's
yeah,
evidence that that is the case.
yeah,
So, like, players aren't going to be like, I don't know about that one. Like, yeah, obviously, like, if you have a pitching staff like the Rays, I don't think those guys are too upset. Like, hey, I only threw 2 innings today. If the entire team is just lights out the whole time, and they know that if they go in there and
yeah.
do their job and dominate whoever's up there, then I don't think those Rays pitchers have that mentality of, like, man,
You know,
I should be throwing this whole game because I'm the best pitcher and I can take them all out. Um, it's clearly
The
very
job
effective to
the job
share the
description or
responsibility.
yeah, the
a
job description
lighter
or the job requirements has changed. I agree with you on that.
Hmm.
a lighter way to look at it, and I think we all got our points out, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was a great example of baseball's randomness and sometimes utter stupidity of how the first batter after Kershaw got pulled just was and ended the no hitter, ended the perfect game. I I thought it was funny that the second Kershaw got pulled, it was just like
And it
baseball's
was
like, yeah, yeah,
Gary Sanchez of all people, I think.
yeah. It was basically like, yeah, we're gonna add on to this anger from the national media because if Kershaw came in, there's no chance that anyone would have gotten a hit. I mean, I believe that Kershaw would have had a great shot at finishing the perfect game, but you can't tell me that just leaving him in would have been like taking him out and leaving him in was the deciding factor between a perfect game happening and not.
Yeah,
There's
people
still
acted like
six
it was a
outs to get.
guarantee he was going to throw a perfect game, or like it was like he had
Well,
three
now
outs to get in the perfect game.
we'll
It
never
was
know. That's
Exactly.
what we do know. Um, yeah, I was watching that game quite intently, as I was during that time period where the Twins happened to be hosting the Dodgers. I was
nice
a Twins
segue.
fan. I was a full on Twins fan, and you know
Yes, sir.
that was a rough one for me in my newly adopted love for this team, to watch them struggle like that. It was nice to see Gary get that nice hit there. There were a lot of Dodgers fans at that Twins game, it seemed, because there was definitely a mixed boo and cheering reaction to the home team breaking up a perfect game against them. So the Dodgers fans are very well spread throughout the country, apparently.
On
Um,
that,
but yeah, the Twins otherwise didn't have. Okay, maybe they didn't have the best week overall,
All,
but
all,
I did learn a lot.
So
so
are we saying that Ui is a bad luck charm, or we need more
maybe
data? I think we need more
we'll,
data.
we'll 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 get into it in a second. I just want to point one thing out with the Dodger fans in Minnesota. So unlike that, there weren't a lot of Angel fans in Houston when Otani had his perfect game going, but there were a bunch of Astro fans on Twitter just saying everyone was just talking about him having the perfect game. Everyone was rooting for him, no matter what team they were, um, no matter what team they were supporting. There were people at the game saying that, so I thought that was cool.
Mhm.
But I think you want to talk about Uwe. I think we want to talk about Uwe becoming a Minnesota Twins fan for the week, correct?
Yes.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna intro the segment real quick, just so everyone knows. This is the first real edition of Sliding By. The name's still pending. We haven't really decided, but last week we did an intro. But it's essentially where Alex Uwe becomes a fan of a random MLB team throughout the season, recaps it for all of us right here on the podcast. So this past 2 weeks, since the last podcast, Uwe finished up his journey as a pseudo Twins fan. So Alex, at the time of this recording, the Twins sit at an even 8-8 record, but there's a lot of fun to have taken from this past week. So I think the place everyone wants to start when they talk about the Minnesota Twins right now is Byron Buxton. I mean, his manager said right now there's no better player in the world than him. I think he's the best player in the world running around doing his thing. So, what do we think about your week of Byron Buxton fandom?
It was quite the roller coaster, which I imagine is the case for whether it's a season long or a lifelong Twins fandom in the experience with him. Um, he did suffer a knee injury only like five or so days into me being a Twins fan. So I believe that is maybe the most authentic aspect of the whole thing is experiencing a Byron Buxton injury, but also just how insane he is as a player. Um, if I can trace this all the way back to when he was a prospect, two 2 years in a row was the number one overall rated prospect in baseball by MLB.com, and the hype was real. He was the next Mike Trout. He was
For
the best
people,
athlete that this sport had ever seen coming up through the minors, and he just struggled so mightily through the first. It was probably like 3 or 4 years on and off,
yeah,
of sample size in the major leagues, where whether it was like injuries or just striking out a ton, like he was just not able to adjust this major league hitting
He was in the
or
same
pitching.
category as Billy Hamilton in terms of like guys who are so
yeah.
valuable defensively that you live with them being horrible offensively.
For
Right.
people that don't know or haven't been following our podcast since its inception, uh, Byron Buxton might have been the first Alex Uwe man crush.
It might
My,
have been. Might have been.
He might have been, and then he kept getting disappointed. But I think now we're back on the right track.
I was
So
enamored. So like Ray said, the glove had always been there for him. Like just a tremendous athlete, can catch everything. Um, since his first major league season, his age 21 season, very young in 2015, his WRC plus by season, which is just kind of a good indicator of offensive performance, uh, centered around 100 being the baseline. So, uh, less than 100 is
is
below
league
average.
League
Yeah,
average.
the baseline league average, correct. So less than that is bad. Above that is good, right? And then that's pretty self-explanatory. So 2015, 53 WRC plus, 86, 92, like getting slightly better, but still not very good. Barely getting on base at a 300 clip, not even really. And then 2018 had a -2 WRC plus, not his best showing at all. So major struggles through all of that. 2019 turned it around, particularly the second half of the season was when he really started to turn it on a bit more. 112, a bit better. 119 in 2020, and then in 2021, man, like it's the rest is history. 169 WRC plus, 296 WRC plus right now, which is just absurd. He is hitting everything, and he's just figured it out, man. And it shows that it just takes time, really, for some people, and patience is needed. Not everybody comes up and takes the league by storm, uh, no matter how highly touted of a prospect they are. But we might be seeing that right now with some of these top prospects coming into the game right now. But that's a conversation for another time. But
With
this one, you
Yeah.
know, I'm a new Minnesota Twins fan, but this particular rooting interest in Byron Buxton has sat with me for a long time, and it is awesome to see it come to fruition. He's homering just like every day, every single day, huge
Sometimes
clutch home
twice.
runs. Yep, just and even the balls that aren't home runs, he's just hitting missiles everywhere. Um, and
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'll add some additional Byron Buxton context for you. This is from Jeff Passan,
hmm
notable Twitter murderer. Since 2019, like when you mentioned Uwe, his WRC plus went above average. Since 2019, the Minnesota Twins are 124 and 73. That is a 101 win pace with a plus 233 run differential when Byron Buxton plays. In the 203 games, which is a lot, that he hasn't played since 2019, the Twins are 94 and 109. That's a 75 win pace and negative 97 in the run differential. His last 162 games, Byron Buxton's has an 8.4 WAR. That is a top 5, top 10, um, like
yeah,
season long WAR over 162. So yeah, Buxton, when he is healthy, since 2019, has been the player that we all thought he was going to be.
there's an interesting point that Uwe made, and before I get to the next question, like the next plan question about just being patient, and you got to kind of commend the Minnesota Twins on this. And there's a lot of you can go cross sports. A lot of sports teams, maybe it's because the teams are in a market or in a position where they can't be ultra patient, but you got to commend the Twins for knowing what they have in Buxton and just making like finding giving him the opportunity to figure it out because he's figured it out at this point and it's I mean it's so much fun to watch. Uh
hmm
so Uwe, outside of Buxton, who or what is the biggest key to being a real contender for the Twins to be a real contender in the Central this year?
oh yeah. So I don't know. Like most things, it really just does come down to the pitching. No matter how impressive a roster you have out in the field, like you gotta have the pitching to get you through the long haul of a season. Um, the most impressive guy who I watched it all through this week and is just absolutely won the hearts over of all Twins fans. Like, this dude is an absolute badass, and that is Joe Ryan, who he is a small dude, not a big dude at all, but and he doesn't even throw that hard necessarily velocity wise. He'll run it up maybe to like the mid 90s, but mostly sits low 90s with the fastball. He just has a different kind of electricity in that arm. The fastball has amazing ride at that arm angle. No, like he gets a ton of swings and misses on his fastball, despite it not being that fast of a pitch. He can locate it anywhere. He has a really good slider to pair with that pitch, and that's kind of all he needs. He just fills up the strike zone. He's a fun guy to watch. Just tons of confidence. I mean, demeanor wise is very Marcus Stroman esque. The stuff is very different. He's not a sinker baller by any means, like the opposite stuff wise to Marcus Stroman. But I don't know, the same kind of energy, smaller dude, um, just electric and just a total badass. So if he is for real, like if he's just gonna do what he's been doing to start the season, uh, from here on out, then yeah, let's go with that. That's an ace right there for them. And then the rest of it is maybe the bigger question mark. I don't know how up to speed you are on the rest of the Twins rotation, but they're running out arms like Chris Archer, Chris Paddock, Dylan Bundy. These are some previously very interesting names. Sonny Gray, um, who now are huge question marks, and some of them have done quite well to start the year. Dylan Bundy, namely, has has done quite well. The others, not as much. We'll really have to see like what comes of this. This, I don't know, makeshift duct tape together starting rotation. But I do think it will really come down to that, because if it falls apart, then I don't know, what are you gonna do? Like, you got to throw somebody out there, and they don't really have enough otherwise to put it together, if you ask me.
So on that note, and we'll get to potential weaknesses of the team in a second. But what do you think their ceiling is as a contender? They're like I said at the top of this, they're 8-8, so it's not a huge sample size. They're first in the AL Central, but what's their ceiling?
Their ceiling is far from where they are right now, because outside of Byron Buxton, the entire team has just been struggling. And it's, they're 8-8 right now. Byron Buxton is really, really carrying the load, and that's no exaggeration. Uh, Position player wise, they have 6 players with positive WAR right now. The rest are negative WAR players, and that is not good. If that wasn't clear, so
if we're assuming that that's not going to be the case, like going forward, and likely some of these guys are going to come back up. And I would also point out that even though Buxton has been incredible, like otherworldly, he might come down a little bit at least. So does that make their ceiling AL Central champs, or AL, like do they have a chance of winning the AL overall World Series? What that's what I'm asking with the contender wise.
I don't see them as a contender. You're looking at a team right here who, in a fan base who is just conditioned for playoff disappointment. I believe the streak is at 21 consecutive games now
In the playoffs,
that
correct?
they've lost in the playoffs. So I don't see it happening
Most of them to the Yankees.
for them. The one playoff wise, their saving grace could be Carlos Correa, just because he's been nails like every single playoffs he's been in. He's not had a good season to start it off, but I don't have any doubts really that Carlos Correa will figure it out with the bat. So that could be a difference maker. Maybe scratch them at least one win out there. I mean, they're no White Sox, that's for sure. If you want to even talk like division contender wise, the rest of the
So
division,
they have
sure, why not? The rest of the division isn't that good.
And then I don't even know if I should, unless you have a different answer. I was going to ask about what can lead to potentially them falling short on their goals, but I think we've covered that so far, correct? Unless you have any other potential answers.
Look, if they just continue
playing
doing what they're
bad,
doing
right?
and are a 500 team, that's not a playoff team, and
Fair.
they're certainly posturing to make a push for the playoffs. They've been very active. Like, this is a very different roster than we saw last year. Last year being a really big disappointment compared to what people were expecting from the Twins. So this year, 500. You really can't take anything away from how the season has started right now. It's just one of those things, and you should know you're an Angels fan. You just kind of you have the best player in the world. You watch him hit a home run every single day. You'll get some wins, and you enjoy the ride from there.
Yeah, and then you almost lose 3 at home to Baltimore. So
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
I was at one of those games.
It's
It was-
just
it-
it's just
fun.
enough to help the medicine go down, right?
I think so. Just to cap it off,
Mhm.
you mentioned Joe Ryan.
Mhm.
So despite Ray, myself, you, Rudy, our crew being diehard, detailed fans, we follow the sport like religiously. We still miss some things from time to time, especially if they're specific or niche to an individual fan base. So, what is something you've seen, something you've known? Maybe it's on the Twins, just their Twitter, their fan base, Reddit, their overall, just following the Twins. What is something you've seen or known, or that you might not have if you didn't do this deep dive?
Well, one thing who definitely outside of Twins fandom maybe know by now, but back when I was doing this a couple weeks ago. Johan Duran, who is a reliever for the Twins, not even their closer, is just one of the most disgusting pitchers in all of baseball. Throws 100 miles an hour plus, nasty slider, and a low 90s split changeup that is just unhittable. He's gotten he's had a little bit of a rough patch here in some of these starts, but I mean he's out there striking out 3-4 batters per outing when he is on. So I believe he'll continue to be used in middle relief or like in high leverage relief situations because they do have guys in the back end like Tyler Duffy, Emilio Pagan, who have a little bit more experience maybe with nailing it down at the end of the games. But yeah, Johan Duran is one of the best, one of the just filthiest pitchers in baseball. He's going to make regular appearances on Pitching Ninja, already has. So non-Twins fans will know him as well.
Joe. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's spelled Jhoan, if anybody's curious. So Johan, but not spelled like any other Johan.
So
yeah. And then I'll throw one other little thing that I stumbled upon in like one of the first few days of my Twins fandom was that so Rocco Baldelli, the manager of the Twins, earlier in the season, he bought a bunch of copies and brought them into the club and brought them for his first time dad players, a bunch of copies of Goodnight Moon, just to share the team. It's a must read for your newborns, everybody. Carlos Correa is one of the noteworthy ones there, like new edition, new dad. He definitely got a copy, but that's probably something nobody knew happened. Well, that's pretty fun. I want a copy.
My family had an English copy and one in Farsi growing up. I remember that.
Nice.
So Joe Ryan and Johan Duran and Goodnight Moon.
Yep.
To
summarize,
I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I hope the Twins fan base has enjoyed this little segment. And Rockies fans, Uwe's heading over to Colorado virtually next, and he's already begun his time.
He was there physically last year, but
yes. But now he's going to be virtually and in spirit. He's already begun his time as a Rockies fan, so keep an eye out for that. And that's all I got. Alex, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I even just in these first couple weeks of the season, I am already a massive Connor Joe fan, and
you can't forget about the Cron's on.
Yeah, can't forget about CJ Crone, spelled Cron, because that's just how it is. We're going to the Crons on, baby.
The Rockies should sign CJ's brother, Kevin. And just have double Crons.
Double Crons. Nice. Yeah, that's it though. I'm liking it so far. It's a nice little exercise to broaden my baseball horizons.
Kevin Crone, for those who are wondering, is playing for the SSG Landers of the KBO.
He last played, I think, in 2019 in Major League Baseball.
I will say he is one of the uglier players I've ever seen take a Major League field. I was trying to think of a way to just say that a lot more tactfully. I couldn't. I was just like,
I really hope
I got chills.
I really hope our listeners have their bingo cards out. We've had 3 NBA analogies this podcast. We've had Goodnight Moon. We've had Uwe calling a
Goodnight
player.
Moon wouldn't be on any
bingo cards.
Like bingo. What are you talking about?
Exactly. We can make that the free space. That's the point of that.
I don't know. I don't know about that one, Farbod. Might have missed the mark.
Farbod, do you know how to play bingo?
Yes, I do. But I don't think you get the bingo card analogy.
All right. This is getting to be a little bit much here. I think we need to wrap it up before things get too heated here. So
We're coming off the rails a little bit.
yeah, but yeah, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, I know I've said that before, but we're doing the thing. Baseball is going full swing, and it's nice to have all these controversial things to talk about yet again. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you did make it this far, make sure to like this podcast wherever you're listening. Tweet us at BeatTheShiftBP if you want to let us know what you think about any of these topics, perfect games, Angel Hernandez, Minnesota Twins, whatever it may be. So yeah, let us know there. And yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thanks, everybody, one last time. As always, Farbod.
Peace.